We're on the road to WrestleMania 36 and a lot of news and rumors coming out of the Royal Rumble this weekend, including Drew McIntyre versus Brock Lesnar and the return of Edge. We talk about it all next on the Squared Circle Psychobabble. Hello and welcome to the Squared Circle Psychobabble. My name is Michael Valenti. For news, reviews, and conversations on all things pro wrestling, subscribe, hit that bell for notifications. So Sunday night we had, I thought, a very good Royal Rumble pay-per-view, and it closed off with what I thought one of the best Royal Rumble matches in a very, very long time. You might even say it's in the discussion as being one of the top 5, maybe even top 3 Royal Rumbles of all time, in which Drew McIntyre won the 2020 Royal Rumble, and he did it by first eliminating Brock Lesnar, coming out of number 16 in the Royal Rumble with the help of Ricochet, low blowing Brock Lesnar in the process. But who is he going to face off at WrestleMania 36? Well, we all know that it's going to be, in fact, Brock Lesnar, where on Monday night, Drew McIntyre opened up the show, issued a challenge to Brock Lesnar, had a 2-on-1 match with the OC, Luke Gallows and Carl Anderson, which he won, and then Brock Lesnar attacked him, giving him a F5. So we know that WrestleMania 36 for the WWE Championship, we will see Drew McIntyre versus Brock Lesnar. And Brock Lesnar had a very good showing at the Royal Rumble with 13 eliminations, tying the Royal Rumble record. In fact, eliminating Braun Strowman, who he tied in that eliminations record with, to get the tie for the eliminations record. I thought this was a very good story to tell. You knew people were going to get more and more ticked off as Brock Lesnar one by one eliminated everybody from the likes of John Morrison, Kofi Kingston, Big E, Rey Mysterio, Elias, Braun Strowman, MVP, Shelton Benjamin. I mean, he just kept throwing them over and over and over within seconds. Keith Lee was one of those 13. He had a nice showing as well, but I would have liked to see him more. But I think NXT had a good showing, and we're going to talk about NXT a little bit later on in the episode. But now that McIntyre is facing Brock Lesnar, the question is, will this be the main event for WrestleMania 36? Some say it will, some say it won't, because the other match that is rumored to be part of the WrestleMania 36 card is Roman Reigns versus The Fiend. Now, Roman Reigns was, it seemed like, the original plan to win the Royal Rumble, but according to Drew McIntyre in an exclusive interview with Bleacher Report, he didn't learn that he was winning the Royal Rumble until that night. So maybe the plan was originally to have Roman Reigns win and then face The Fiend. And I got to be honest, when I found out that Roman Reigns and Corbin were going to open the show for the Royal Rumble, I thought the writing was on the wall that Roman was going to lose, seem incapacitated to be in the Royal Rumble, come out late and win the Royal Rumble. But obviously that wasn't the case. And I think a lot of people are happy about that outcome. But the match for Roman Reigns versus The Fiend for the Universal Championship is still planned to be happening. And according to Tom Colohue of Sportskeeda, there's actually a disagreement on which match would main event WrestleMania 36 in Tampa. Paul Heyman, who has been doing a lot of the creative stuff for Monday Night Raw, is campaigning to have McIntyre versus Lesnar main event WrestleMania 36, while Vince McMahon wants Roman Reigns versus The Fiend. I think both matches have their reasons to main event the card. Obviously, McIntyre is heavily backed up by the crowd right now, by the WWE Universe, and Brock Lesnar, with his name, with his draw appeal, I think both of them would deliver a great match and a great way to close out the show, especially if McIntyre beats Brock Lesnar, and this could be the last time we see Brock Lesnar in WWE, although you never know with Brock Lesnar. Then again, we have The Fiend, who is, since the fall, the most popular wrestler in WWE. I understand his backing up, his mystique has cooled off a little bit. But Roman, you know, he hasn't really been pushed as the guy since he's come back from his leukemia. And this would be a good time, you know, bring that story in and how he never lost the Universal Championship. A great way to get that redemption or that, you know, that title back that he never lost and have a good story with that. The Fiend being who he is, could play mind games with him. I think both of these are going to have good stories between now and then. So if either or main event WrestleMania, I wouldn't be upset. I would totally understand where they're going with it. So I'll leave it up to you guys to vote on that. Vote on the eye above my head right now. Which match you want to see main event WrestleMania 36? Lesnar and McIntyre or Roman and The Fiend? Now, if McIntyre ends up main eventing WrestleMania against Brock Lesnar, he'll be the first person to main event both an NXT takeover and a WrestleMania. That's pretty cool. What a great way to showcase NXT in a way by saying that McIntyre, after all those years, after getting fired from WWE, had to work the independents in Impact. He did stuff in England to come back and have to go through NXT. It was a short stint, but still had to come back, main event a takeover, come up on the main roster. Wasn't really booked well at first, but here we are where he could be potentially main eventing WrestleMania 36. Now, the other Royal Rumble match was won by Charlotte Flair. So the question is, what happens with her? She didn't announce who she'll face at WrestleMania last night on Raw, but according to PWINSIDER, it seems like Charlotte Flair is going to be appearing on NXT this Wednesday to set up her WrestleMania match with the NXT Women's Champion, Rhea Ripley. And I know they have their history from Survivor Series, and, Rhea Ripley had that surprise win on the SmackDown episode, pinning Charlotte Flair. They had their moments in the Survivor Series match. So it makes sense that they could do this, especially if they want to establish NXT as a third brand. However, Rhea Ripley does have a title match in a couple weeks with Bianca Belair for that NXT Women's Championship in NXT TakeOver Portland. And Bianca Belair could also be a possible opponent for Charlotte Flair. Now, this is just me speculating and throwing the idea out there, but Bianca Belair was awesome in the Royal Rumble this past Sunday. 8 eliminations. She was the Iron Woman of the match, going for over 33 minutes before eventually getting eliminated by Charlotte Flair. So obviously Charlotte Flair can have a history with both Rhea Ripley, or Bianca Belair can have a good story with either one. And if the NXT Women's Championship ends up being at WrestleMania, that is a absolute awesome way to establish NXT as not a developmental brand, but just a third brand of WWE. This would definitely help. And, a lot of people are saying that Charlotte's starting to get that John Cena or Roman Reigns effect where they keep pushing her in these situations. And she didn't necessarily need to win the Royal Rumble on Sunday, but if it's to get the NXT Women's Championship at WrestleMania, I think it's a perfect idea. This is absolutely brilliant. Now, if that's the case, that means Becky Lynch on Raw still needs an opponent for WrestleMania. And according to Dave Meltzer, that opponent's going to be Shayna Baszler. And I think a lot of people have been speculating that for quite some time, especially after what happened at Survivor Series, where Shayna Baszler beat Becky Lynch and Bayley in a triple threat match to close out Survivor Series in 2019. But it was Becky Lynch that stood tall at the end of the night. And, there's the ties to Ronda Rousey, the whole 4 horsewomen versus 4 horsewomen. This obviously would plant the seed for that. If that eventually does happen, obviously Ronda would need to come back for that to happen. It seems like that's not the case right now, as she did not show up for the Royal Rumble, as many of you already know. And if Charlotte Flair is going to be facing Rhea Ripley, there's really no one in the Raw women roster right now that could be built up in 2 months to be a good candidate to face Becky Lynch. Shayna Baszler has been an NXT Women's Champion for over 500 days and 2 reigns, and has looked pretty much unstoppable in NXT, and very much like Asuka came up on the main roster and looked dominant in the beginning, Shayna Baszler could be that same thing for Becky Lynch. And I think this would be a great match. I don't think it main event, obviously, but this would definitely be one of the marquee matches heading into WrestleMania 36. I think Shayna would definitely be the right opponent if we're not getting a returning Ronda or a Royal Rumble winning Charlotte Flair. We've seen Charlotte and Becky loads of times, so we don't need to see it again. It looks like on the SmackDown side, it'd probably be Becky versus Sasha Banks, who Sasha was injured apparently, and that's why she wasn't in the Royal Rumble. It was replaced by Kelly, but unfortunately I was having Sasha win the Royal Rumble, and Shayna was my second pick, but Charlotte was a good choice, I think. But I think the big news that everybody's talking about coming out of the Royal Rumble, and it's one that even if the reports were there in October, still shocked the wrestling world. And that is, after 9 long years, Edge returned to the WWE and wrestled. That's right. He appeared on the Royal Rumble, coming in at number 21. I've seen countless reaction videos, whether they're on YouTube or Twitter or Facebook, and each of the reaction videos that I see, I get goosebumps. Talking about it right now, I'm getting goosebumps on it. It was just an amazing moment, one you never thought would happen. And yes, it's the same situation as you would think you'd never see Shawn Michaels again. You'd never see Daniel Bryan in the ring again. Edge was one of those ones where you thought you'd never see again because of his history with the injuries, the surgery. I've said countless times on this podcast that one bad bump could cause him to be paralyzed. He got cleared by doctors. He worked his ass off. And let me tell you something. He looked awesome in this Royal Rumble. I wish we all got the first spear. Thanks, Kevin Dunn. But, the spears that he was delivering, the bumps he was taking, the storytelling between him and Randy Orton was unbelievable. And, he delivered on his return. He looked good in his shocking return from retirement after 9 years and ending up third in the Royal Rumble. If I were to tell you that on April 12th, 2011, that Edge will be back at the 2020 Royal Rumble and be third at that Royal Rumble, you probably would have laughed in my face. Here he is, and he did just that. And this isn't just a one-off, folks. According to WrestleVotes, he did sign a 3-year deal with WWE. He did appear to close out Monday Night Raw last night, and it looks like he's got a story. As Randy Orton came out, it seemed like at first it was a good to see you, let's reform Rated RKO. But then after a nice hug, a great moment there that brought Edge to tears, Orton gave him an RKO. Like the Viper that he's been, I thought that was a great ending. And of course, the chair shot to the head. Of course, we know about the neck injury, so that was good storytelling there. And they did it in a safe way where they didn't damage his neck anymore. So it looks like we're getting Edge versus Randy Orton at WrestleMania 36. So, I mean, truly inspirational what we've seen from Edge. And we've seen it with Daniel Bryan. We've seen it with Shawn Michaels. We've seen it with Edge. And now the conversation starts. Well, if Bryan can come back, if Edge can come back, then that means Paige can return. That means Sting can return. That means Stone Cold Steve Austin can return. So I know in the comments, you're going to let me know who you want to see come back after retirement from injury. After all these years that Edge came back, you never say never in the world of professional wrestling. And I tell you what, with these rumor matches that we're getting for WrestleMania 36 and the one that's already confirmed between Lesnar and McIntyre, this is going to be a hell of a WrestleMania. I'm excited for this card. McIntyre versus Lesnar, Roman versus The Fiend, Rhea Ripley versus Charlotte Flair, Becky versus Shayna, Edge versus Randy Orton. That's 5 high quality matches right there. I'm excited for WrestleMania. I'm excited for those that are going to be in Tampa that first weekend of April, not just because of the wonderful weather you guys are going to enjoy, but this is already forming to be a great WrestleMania card. So let me know in the comments what you guys thought of the Royal Rumble, what you thought of Edge returning, what were your reactions to it, and what matches you think are going to happen at WrestleMania 36. Let me know in the comments below. Don't forget to share this all over social media. We're on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter at SCPB Podcast. And for news, reviews, and conversations on all things pro wrestling, subscribe, hit that bell for notifications. My name is Michael Valenti. We'll see you on the next episode of The Squared Circle.